You thought that was an elixir of life. It's actually a death curse from the serpent demon. You thought the robed man in the thick fog was your savior. You thought the crimson pill was heaven's mercy. You thought Master Snake Slayer brought redemption. Wrong. All of it is wrong. Let's tear open the desperate dusk over Lee Village by Poyang Lake and become that boy who personally fed the so-called elixir to his loved ones, only to see the bloody sacrifice hiding behind the mask of mercy. To save your plague-stricken villagers, you risked breaking into the Forbidden Mist Zone and met a man in green robes who claimed he could cure the disease. He bestowed crimson pills upon you. The plague miraculously vanished, and you became a hero. When the ethereal Master Shu descended to slay the 1,000-year serpent demon stirring the lake, you offered your full trust without hesitation. On the day of the slaying, the demon's foul blood turned into countless crimson worms that burrowed into the villagers' bodies. You watched, helplessly, as the respected old clan leader melted into a puddle of blood right before your eyes. Master Shu merely said calmly, "This is fate. It's worth it for the greater good." Furious and heartbroken, you demanded answers, only to learn that the green-robed man who cured the disease was the serpent demon, and the crimson pills were serpent eggs. The bloodworms from the serpent's body were the death triggers for those infected with the eggs. In despair, you swung your sword at Master Shu, shouting, "You knew the cost! Why didn't you tell us?" The thick, inky fog lingered all year over the waters east of the village, like a massive, festering scar clinging to the edge of Poyang Lake. The villagers called it Deadwater Marsh. Even the most seasoned fishermen would turn pale at the sight of its heaving gray-white mist from afar, and quickly steer his boat away. Legend says the fog is the poisonous breath of a water demon. Anyone who ventures inside will have their bones dissolved into sludge. The shadow of Deadwater Marsh and its lingering stench like rotting fish stirred with muck from the lake bed had long seeped into the very marrow of the village. The plague crept in more silently than the fog. At first, it was just a few children who burned with unexplained fevers at night, their small chests heaving, coughing, as if their lungs would tear apart, a strange gray pallor showing beneath their skin. Then it was the elders, and soon after, the strong and able adults, day and night. Coughing echoed endlessly through the low thatched huts, like dying spirits wailing. Desperate cries replaced the crow of roosters and the barking of dogs. Under the crooked old locust tree at the village gate, new graves piled higher by the day. The damp scent of earth mixed with the rot of death pressed heavily on everyone's chest. You stared at your own withered hand, crisscrossed with thin, web-like gray veins. They crept upward, slowly, greedily, past your wrist, like a living thing counting down your remaining time. Every breath from your lungs carried the metallic tang of blood, and a burning pain deep in your organs. The old clan leader, known as the Living Grave, fixed his cloudy eyes on you. His cracked lips trembled as he used the last of his strength to say, "The ancestors said something in Deadwater Marsh can either save or kill." His twig-like hand suddenly gripped your wrist with shocking strength, his nails almost piercing your skin. A near-mad glint flared in his murky eyes. Go to Deadwater Marsh. Bet your life on it. Win a chance for the village to live." He coughed violently, spitting a mouthful of thick, black blood onto the back of your hand. It was warm and foul. His grip slackened all at once, his gray face slumping to one side. His chest rose and fell, so faintly it was barely visible, only a broken bellows rasping in his throat. You shot to your feet. The hall was packed with people, faces waxy and hopeless, flickering under the dim oil lamp. Fear coiled around your heart like a cold snake, but the hot, rancid blood splattered on your hand burned through that ice. Go to Deadwater Marsh, the thought, once planted, grew like weeds in a barren wasteland of despair. Go, bet this life, win a breath of hope from this death trap. You said nothing, turned, and rushed out of the house heavy with the stench of death. The cutting wind from the lake scraped your face like knives, making your numb heart ache sharply. The eastern boundary of the village was like an invisible gate to hell. As you stepped onto the pale, moss-slick path, the air suddenly turned thick and icy. The rolling fog felt almost solid, lashing at your face with a pungent stench and an indescribable, rotten sweetness, forcing its way into your nose and mouth. The sludge underfoot swallowed your ankles, each step pried free with a sickening squelch. Towering, twisted shadows of dead trees loomed in the mist like silent wraiths. Absolute silence, no lapping of lake water, only your ragged bellows like breath, and the pounding of your heart roaring in your ears. You didn't know how long you'd walked, maybe a moment, maybe a lifetime, when a faint blue glow suddenly appeared deep in the mist. Weak yet stubborn, it pierced through the dense gray. At its center, a figure sat cross-legged on a jagged stone coated in deep green moss. A long robe the color of water draped over him, almost blending into the fog. You couldn't see his face, only felt a strange serenity about him, as though he had sat there since time immemorial, the lone fixed point in this realm of death. You froze, standing in the freezing mud, your throat tightening, unable to speak a single word. Was it man or ghost? Was this the thing the ancestors spoke of? Illness clings to you, your life's flame flickering out. A voice rang directly in your mind, gentle, clear, yet with a cold, crystalline edge like jade striking stone. You've come to this place of death. What do you seek? It wasn't through your ears, but resonated inside your skull, icy and sharp. Save them, you rasped, bending with pain as your lungs seared. The village, the plague, everyone's dying, please. You fell to your knees with a splash, forehead pressed hard against the slimy mud, every bone in your body crying out. The blue silhouette seemed to stir slightly, silence stretching. The fog churned. A hand, pale to the point of transparency, slipped from his sleeve and extended toward the mud in front of you. In his palm lay 3 pills the size of longans, crimson as blood, with a texture like neither jade nor stone, their surface shrouded by a faint, swirling dark red mist. They rested there, exuding a strange, conflicting scent-rich blood mingled with the fresh bite of herbs. That scent invaded your nostrils and, for a fleeting moment, soothed the fire burning through your chest. Scarlet crystal pills. The voice echoed in your mind again, devoid of joy or sorrow. Dissolve in water, 1 per person. It will break this calamity. The pale hand slowly withdrew, and the figure seemed even more ethereal in the fog. Go quickly. Do not return here. Trembling, you reached out, your fingertips brushing the crimson pills. A chilling cold shot through your fingers, making you shudder violently. You snatched up the 3 scarlet crystal pills, clutching them tight as the icy touch numbed your bones. You didn't dare lift your head or look at the figure again. Crawling, stumbling, you turned and ran with all your strength back the way you came, the fog surging behind you as if countless cold eyes were glued to your back. The moment you burst out of the fog at Deadwater Marsh, the blinding daylight made your vision go black, and you almost collapsed. You clenched the 3 crimson pills in your fist so tightly that your nails dug deep into your palm. They were as cold as blocks of ice, yet the metallic, herbal scent stubbornly clung to your fingers. By the time you staggered to the village gate, drenched and caked with mud like someone crawling back from hell, the crowd waiting in despair outside the clan leader's house erupted with gasps. You opened your mud-stained hand, and the 3 blood-red pills shimmered with an eerie glow under the dim sky. A deathly silence fell over everyone. In every pair of eyes, there was only that otherworldly crimson hue. No cheers, just heavy breathing and sharp, incredulous gasps. These came from inside Deadwater Marsh. You rasped, each word scraping your throat. Dissolve them in water, share it. A violent fit of coughing cut you off. Bent double, you coughed, as if you would rip your lungs apart. The familiar burn and tightness surging through your chest, making your vision swim. Suddenly, a woman lunged forward and snatched a pill from your hand. Her bony fingers trembled violently, black mud packed under her nails. Without hesitation, she shoved the pill into the mouth of a child, lying weakly on a straw mat beside her. The boy was no more than 5 or 6, his little face ashen, lips bluish-purple, chest barely rising. The pill slipped into his mouth, and the woman clamped her hand over it, terrified he might spit it out. Time crawled by in suffocating silence, 1 breath, 10 breaths, until the child's throat made a faint but clear swallowing sound. Then, before their very eyes, the gray pallor on his skin vanished, as if wiped away by an invisible hand. His bluish lips turned pink, his faint breathing became steady and deep, and his chest began to rise and fall with rhythm. "He's alive! My boy is alive!" the woman cried, her wail shaking the heavens as she clutched her child, tears and snot streaming down her face. Her cry was like a spark thrown into boiling oil, igniting the once dead crowd. A wave of ecstasy swept over everyone. Some pounded their chests, some fell to their knees, banging their foreheads against the ground. In the chaos, the other 2 pills were carefully dissolved in a basin of water, the crimson hue swirling like blood, releasing not just a metallic scent but a strange, invigorating fragrance of herbs. Villagers rushed forward with cracked bowls or bare hands, scooping the red water and greedily pouring it into their own mouths and those of their loved ones. You slumped against the cold mud wall, watching the frenzied crowd as the burning pain and dizziness in your chest grew heavier. The old clan leader's son, a dark and sturdy man, carried a chipped clay bowl with the last of the crimson water and held it out to you carefully. "Savior, please, drink it!" His voice cracked with emotion, his eyes blazing with fervent gratitude. You took the bowl. It felt as heavy as 1,000 pounds. The rim was covered in smudged fingerprints and the marks of many lips. Closing your eyes, you tilted your head back and swallowed the thick, icy red liquid in one gulp. A freezing chill shot from your throat to your gut, as if you had swallowed a river of ice, cramping every organ inside you. Then, a strange warmth exploded from that icy core, surging through your limbs and bones. The searing pain and suffocating tightness that had burned in your chest for days were crushed and smoothed away in an instant, as though by an invisible giant hand. A wave of indescribable relief swept over you, so intense you almost groaned aloud. The web-like gray veins beneath your skin faded and vanished before your eyes. You became the scarlet crystal savior of Lee Village. The eyes of the survivors burned with such fervent gratitude it felt like they would set you on fire. Every gaunt face was etched with raw, overwhelming reverence. The old clan leader, leaning on his frail body, gripped your hand with his twig-like fingers, tears streaming down his face. "Le village owes you our lives. You saved us all." In his cloudy eyes, The despair of death had been replaced by a near-holy radiance. Surrounded by their gratitude and worship, you felt a cold dread rise from your feet, colder than the sludge of Deadwater Marsh. The inhuman voice of that blue silhouette, the eerie crimson pills, their icy touch, and the uncanny speed with which that child returned from death, all of it flashed through your mind. The villagers' joy felt all the more real, but the chill of fear in your heart grew deeper. You saved them, but was what you brought back truly an elixir of life? What was that thing, really, in the depths of the fog? This thought coiled inside you like a venomous snake, gnawing at your brief peace. A month passed. On a sweltering summer night, even the lake breeze was thick and suffocating. It started with a few scattered barks. Then all the dogs in the village went wild, snarling and wailing toward Deadwater Marsh, their cries filled with primal terror. Moments later, the surface of Poyang Lake began to churn violently without a breath of wind. Murky waves crashed against the embankments with thunderous booms. The shabby thatched huts shook under the tremors, dust raining from the beams. You rushed outside and saw, to your horror, the fog over Deadwater Marsh spinning and swelling, forming an enormous gray-white vortex that pierced the ink-black night sky. From the center of the vortex came a muffled, oppressive roar, neither beast nor human, laden with boundless hatred and a slick, bone-chilling malice. It cut through the fog and the thunderous waves, drilling into everyone's ears with terrifying clarity. Villagers huddled in their doorways, faces pale as paper, shivering. The children, crushed by the invisible fear, burst into piercing, gut-wrenching cries. Despair deeper than the plague washed over the village like the icy lake itself. "It's here! The thing in Deadwater Marsh! It's angry!" The old clan leader stood at the front of the crowd, leaning on his cane, his voice hoarse and trembling, his age-spotted face drained of all color. His cloudy eyes locked on the spinning vortex, filled with bottomless fear and a grim understanding of fate. Just then, in this apocalyptic scene, a beam of pure light descended from the heavens. At first a faint star, it streaked across the sky, splitting the night open and hovering above Lee Village. As the glow faded, a Taoist priest emerged. He wore a spotless white robe, his face lean and composed, 3 strands of long beard flowing over his chest. In his hand was a whisk, and a faint, soothing radiance surrounded him. He stood in midair, his gaze sharp as lightning, piercing through the churning fog straight to the vortex at the heart of Deadwater Marsh. A gentle yet irresistible power spread out with his arrival, calming the terror in the villagers' hearts. Even the frenzied dogs went silent and crouched low. "Blessings of the infinite celestial Lord," the priest said not loudly, but his voice rang clear over the roar of the wind and waves, like a bell made of jade echoing in every trembling ear. "I am Shushun, a wandering Taoist. This lake harbors a demon that stirs storms and brings suffering. Today, I shall cut it down and restore peace to this place." "Master Zhu, it's Master Zhu, the Dragon Slayer, come to save us." An elderly man who had once read a few books dropped to his knees, trembling with excitement, shouting hoarsely. The name, Master Zhu, spread through the crowd like a boulder dropped into still water. In an instant, the despairing villagers knelt as one, bowing their heads furiously, tears streaming as they cried, "Save us, Master! Slay the demon, Master! Mercy, Master!" Fanatic faith blazed like wildfire, burning away the shadows of fear. Shu Shun's gaze swept over the kneeling crowd and finally rested on you at the very front. His eyes were gentle, yet carried a knowing clarity, as though he had already seen through the taint of Deadwater Marsh, clinging to you and the heavy doubts buried deep in your heart. Young friend, you carry a heart of kindness and care for your people. His voice was calm, yet carried a power that soothed the soul. This demon is vicious. When I strike, there may be chaos. I need a bit of your strength to help shield your village. The white jade whisk in his hand tapped lightly in your direction, and a warm current surged into your body, like the winter sun melting the last trace of chill in your bones. At the same time, a faint yet unyielding force rose within your limbs and bones. The true master himself had called upon you, lending you his power. A wave of immense honor and divine recognition shattered your last trace of doubt. You straightened your back, met Chusen's gaze, and nodded firmly, your chest swelling with an unprecedented sense of purpose. In the days that followed, the entire Li village became a massive ritual ground. Chusen chose a flat hill east of the village, near Deadwater Marsh, as the altar site. The villagers brought forth their finest wood and cleanest stones with astonishing fervor. Under Shushun's guidance, you led the strongest men of the village to work day and night. The altar was built with massive green stones, towering over 10 feet high. Intricate golden runes, glimmering faintly, were carved into its surface. At the center stood a dark, 3-story tall pillar of dense wood, etched naturally with lightning-like veins, its sharp tip pointing toward the heavens. Shushan personally carved profound talismans into the pillar, using cinnabar mixed with a mysterious golden powder. With every stroke, a low rumble of wind and thunder seemed to echo from within the wood. Around the altar, 49 apricot yellow flags were planted. Without wind, they fluttered on their own, giving off an aura of deadly sharpness. Shushun sat cross-legged in the center of the altar, eyes closed, his breath merging with the altar, the earth beneath, and even the vast waters of Poyang Lake. He drank only a little clear water each day, yet his face grew ever clearer and brighter, his body glowing faintly like a deity incarnate. You kept watch below the altar, sleepless day and night, feeling the immense, righteous, and reassuring power radiating down from it. Even the last shadow of doubt in your heart was washed away. With Master Shu's boundless power, the demon would surely be vanquished. You believe this with all your heart. On the 7th day, just as dawn broke, the roar from Deadwater Marsh suddenly rose to a piercing, maddened scream, filled with ferocity and rage. The surface of Poyang Lake no longer surged but boiled. Towering waves, like walls of furious water, crashed violently against the embankments. The sky was instantly shrouded in thick, black clouds, swirling low with faint, blood-red lightning slithering within them. A nauseating stench, reeking of blood and millennia of rotting silt, swept over the village with icy mist. The time has come. Shushun's clear voice rang out like a sword, cutting through the storm. He rose tall on the altar, pointing his whisk to the sky. A sharp, ringing sword cry split the heavens. The ancient sword on his back sprang from its sheath, transforming into a blinding golden light, several meters long, hovering before him. Its tip aimed straight at the raging vortex at the heart of Deadwater Marsh. The blade gleamed, its sharp aura freezing the very air around it for tens of meters. Foul serpent of darkness, you've brought chaos to Poyang and poisoned all life. Today I, Shushun, will see your end. His voice thundered like great bells and drums, each word carrying unstoppable force, shaking every soul. He formed a sword seal, and the golden blade gave a sharp, tearing shriek before shooting out like a golden rainbow, unstoppable, piercing the swirling fog vortex with devastating might. Ah, a shriek beyond description, so sharp it shattered the spirit, erupted from deep within the vortex. The sound was filled with pain, hatred, and a primal fury. The golden sword light tore through the fog, vaporizing it in an instant. In the dissipating mist, a monstrous, suffocating silhouette was revealed. It was a serpent so colossal it defied words. Its body was as thick as a palace column, its scales as large as tabletops, glinting with a cold metallic sheen. It coiled and twisted endlessly, with no telling where head or tail began. Jagged bone spurs and massive, unhealed scars covered its hideous body. Most terrifying of all was its head, like that of a python, but crowned with two twisted, broken black horns, gnarled like ancient roots. Its massive vertical pupils burned with molten, gold, red fire, locking onto Shushun atop the altar with endless hatred and madness. The golden sword was buried deep into its 7-inch weak point. Dark, tar-like blood gushed from the massive wound, thick and boiling. The blood seemed alive, stinking of rot and heat. The moment it touched the air, it hissed and spat, sending up choking black smoke reeking of sulfur. Die, demon. Su-Sun's hair and beard flared, his entire body blazing with light like the midday sun. His sword seal shifted again, and the golden sword embedded in the serpent flared even brighter. With a sharp slash, "Reap!" It tore open a massive gash, starting from the serpent's weak point, ripping downward. More of that boiling, tar-like blood gushed forth like a flood breaking a dam, accompanied by the serpent's death wails, shriller and more harrowing than before. The sight burned itself into your mind as an eternal nightmare, and yet the serpent's blood did not fall like normal blood. Suspended in midair, it writhed and swelled. Each thick drop split, multiplied, and twisted in mad transformation. In an instant, the sky rained a torrent of thick, red raindrops, but each drop was a tiny, blood-red worm, the size of a fingernail, shaped like a writhing leech. They swarmed by the millions, blotting out the sun, filling the air with a hair-raising, whispering hiss, like countless tiny mouths opening and closing in unison. As the blood rain fell, the villagers, still frozen in awe and joy at the true master's victory, had no time to react. The crimson worms, radiating heat and stinking of blood, swarmed onto every living person in sight like maggots burrowing into bone. Ah! Screams of agony replaced the cheers in an instant. You were closest to the altar, and were hit first. Several worms, hot as embers, flew at your face. You instinctively raised an arm to block, pain stabbing like needles as the worms seared your skin with a sizzling hiss. Looking down in horror, you saw them writhing frantically, trying to drill through your flesh. Just as they were about to burrow into your skin, the warm force Shushun had given you jolted to life. A faint, nearly invisible glow flashed across your skin. The worm struck the barrier with a sharp hiss, bounced off, and fell into the muddy water at your feet, writhing madly before stiffening and dissolving into foul black smoke. Protective power! The shield from Master Shu had saved you. Relief surged, only to be crushed instantly by the hellish scene around you. You whipped your head up and looked toward the crowd of villagers. It had become a living nightmare. Countless crimson worms covered their bodies and faces, writhing and burrowing. Underneath their skin, countless finger-sized lumps crawled like living creatures tunneling beneath the flesh. Their eyes bulged wide, blood vessels bursting across the whites, guttural inhuman cries spilling from their mouths as their bodies twisted and convulsed at grotesque angles. Their skin began to melt like candle wax, rotting and oozing yellow pus and black blood. The stench of burning, decaying flesh filled the air. "Father! Mother!" You roared, eyes bloodshot. Seeing a familiar boy, it was the only son of the woman who had first snatched the pill to save her child. His body was covered with crimson worms as he howled like a wild beast, clawing madly at his own rotting, pus-covered face and neck, tearing chunks of bloody flesh from his body. He collapsed to the ground, convulsing violently, his body deflating like a punctured ball as it withered away. His melting flesh and organs mixed with pus and blood, spreading beneath him into a steaming, sticky crimson pool that kept growing. "No, no!" You tried to rush forward in madness, but your feet felt nailed to the ground. Came a familiar bellows-like rasp beside you. You turned your head stiffly. It was the old clan leader. Somehow, he had struggled over to the altar, just a few steps away from you. A few crimson worms had landed on him too. The elder's clouded eyes locked onto you, not with fear, but with a heartbreaking mix of sorrow and release, as if he had seen through everything. His frail chest heaved violently, his throat straining to let out ragged, wheezing sounds as if he wanted to say something. He raised one twig-like hand, trembling as he pointed at you, then slowly at Shu Shun, who stood high upon the altar, bathed in radiant light. In the next instant, you watched in horror as the places where the worms had burrowed into the elder's body began to melt and cave in like boiling wax. No scream, just that rasping breath cutting off abruptly. His body collapsed like a melting wax statue. From head to toe, flesh, bone, and organs dissolved before your eyes into a steaming, foul-smelling pool of scarlet sludge. The blood pooled quickly, mixed with a few strands of gray hair and scraps of dark cloth that had not yet melted. In just a few breaths, the once dignified, kind elder who had entrusted the entire village's fate to you was gone, leaving only a bubbling, foul-smelling puddle of sticky red liquid on the ground. "Clan leader!" A feral, desperate roar tore from your throat. Blood surged to your head, only to freeze like ice the next instant. The crushing weight of grief and absurdity gripped your heart like two giant hands, suffocating you. You snapped your head up, your bloodshot eyes locking on the altar. Shu Sun, dressed in spotless white, hovered above the altar, bathed in clean light that repelled every speck of filth. He looked down calmly at the village now, a slaughterhouse of blood and flesh. His face held no trace of pity, only a chilling, detached indifference. The golden sword that had slain the serpent hovered beside him, its glow flickering across his calm, sharp face. "True, master," you roared hoarsely, your voice twisted by anguish and fury, scraping like sandpaper on iron. Why? The villagers, they..." You pointed to the crimson sludge that had been the clan leader, then to the villagers, writhing and melting in the worm-infested hell. Your body trembled like a leaf in the wind, teeth chattering, unable to form coherent words. Betrayal and rage boiled through your chest like molten lava. Shu Shun's gaze finally settled on you. His deep, ancient eyes remained calm, filled only with cold understanding. "Foolish child." His voice was still clear and gentle, but it cut into your heart like a blade of ice. "This is fate. The demon's blood becomes worms, born of resentment. They carried its eggs within them. Their lives have long been tied to the demon. When it dies, the eggs awaken. There is no turning back." "Demon eggs?" They carried demon eggs? It hit you like a blinding white bolt splitting through the chaos in your mind. That shadowy figure in the fog. The crimson, ice-cold, scarlet crystal pills. The unnatural resurrection of the woman's child after swallowing the pill. The villagers' frenzy as they drank the dissolved crimson water, all these fragments snapped together at Shu Shun's cruel words, forming a grotesque, sickening truth. It was him! You pointed wildly toward the dissolving carcass of the serpent in Deadwater Marsh, your voice shrill with fury and bone-deep dread. The man in the green robe! The scarlet crystal pills! It was him, the serpent demon. He gave them. They were demon eggs, weren't they? Your hysterical scream tore from you like blood and tears in every word. Shu Shun gave a faint nod, his expression calm, as if reciting a fact unrelated to himself. Xuanming, heir of the ancient water god Gongong's bloodline, cunning and venomous. It refined its own blood and hatred into these eggs, using your hand to scatter them among mortals. The eggs granted fleeting life, but served as vessels for its possession. When the serpent dies, the blood leeches born of its essence return through the eggs, consuming their hosts in its final act. This is the curse of the blood leeches returning to the nest, the serpent's last desperate strike. His gaze swept over the village below, now a hellish sea of blood. The villagers writhed and melted into pus, their bones leaving no trace. His voice was detached, devoid of human warmth. Yet with Xuanming slain, the water demon's threat to Poyang is forever ended. The sacrifice of these hundreds, whose lives were already forfeit, brings peace to these lands for generations to come. This is the balance of heaven's law, the fortune of all beings. Their deaths were not in vain. Each word seared into your soul like a branding iron. Cold, cruel, calculated, at last you understood. From beginning to end, you had been nothing but a pitiful pawn, a tool for the serpent demon, feeding poison eggs to your own people. And now a puppet for Shu Shun, used to comfort the villagers, even to share the burden of this massacre. Shu Shun, he knew everything. He knew the scarlet pills were serpent eggs. He knew killing the serpent would trigger the blood leeches. He knew everyone who drank the crimson water would melt into pus the moment the serpent died. And yet he said nothing. He watched it all happen. He even used your trust and gratitude to make you complicit in the slaughter of your entire village. He stood high above, cloaking everything under words like fate, heaven's law, and the greater good, dismissing hundreds of living souls as nothing. You knew the cost. You straightened your bent back, your blood igniting and boiling. All fear, awe, and gratitude burned away in the face of boundless fury and despair. Only hatred remained. The elder's melting face flashed before your eyes, the boy clawing his own flesh, the villagers' hope when they drank the crimson water, and their screams now. These visions burned away your reason like molten fire. You glared at the figure floating above the altar, that radiant, true master you once trusted and revered. Why didn't you say it? The roar ripped from you at the last of your life's strength, draining the final shred of humanity from you. It was no longer a human voice, but the howl of a ghost clawing its way from the depths of hell, a cry of a soul shattered to dust. The moment the scream left your throat, you moved. Your body, driven by a force born of despair and hate, bent low. From the still warm, sticky blood of the clan leader at your feet, you snatched a rusted hatchet once left behind by the villagers who built the altar. The cold, reeking blood ran down the handle into your palm, hot and sticky. No thought, no hesitation, your bloodshot eyes saw only that white figure. Your feet dug into the stinking, slippery, blood-soaked mud, and you shot forward like a bloodied arrow, ready to die together with him, charging at Shu Shun hovering above the altar. The rusted hatchet, raised high with all your strength, carried your entire life, all your grief and rage, all your despair, as it came crashing down toward that spotless white, toward the butcher cloaked in heaven's will, toward fate itself.